Yeah, well, Prof here. We're gonna get some lights on, and we snag today's releases of anime, and we're gonna say hi to King Arthur. Hey, King Arthur, how's it going? Yeah, you had a busy day, didn't you? Somebody came over and gave you pets. Yeah. How you doing, big guy? So, a lot of you have seen all the vinyl here. This is the more recent stack. I found my sleeves. We're not doing that this video. We might put the sleeves on an additional one because I gotta do it, and might as well go over with you guys, what we have, what type of sleeves I use. What I'm saying that for vinyl is inner and outer sleeves. Because, like, for example, this Cuphead one, it's just like a shrink wrap. That's never going back on there. Just not able to. Today what we're doing instead, take care of this is, no, Paisley's coming over here too. Hey, dude. You want attentions? Alright, what? Knipex. This is the number 2 Knipex in the haul. Yeah, some more random stuff in here. For example, if you're going to buy your HDMI cables, get Club 3D. They're actually VESA certified. A little bit more, but they're going to work. Here's the little nubbin Wi-Fi antennas, and here, if you're adding your own Wi-Fi to a motherboard, you're going to need the Bing Fu. Bing Fu. And I always carry an extra one on hand because a lot of motherboards, a lot of people, though they think they don't need Wi-Fi, they end up needing it. And often I'll have the cards around for upgrading laptops or even my own computers. Or I'll have a gen behind, like I'll have an AX200 because I replaced it with a 210. Or even if it's an Intel system, I would use the BX400. So I usually have extra cards around here. Nowadays, you're going to want an AX200, AX210, or BX4. I think it's BX400, B400, BE400, I think it might be. Yeah, so as you can see, King Arthur's helping over here. We got some Do Not Eat, except the clay variant. I've never had the clay variant of Do Not Eat, and I feel like you could eat the clay variant of the Do Not Eat. Where the heck did Paisley put? Here we go. Oh, that's what I was looking for. Right there. Okay, we got these guys here. And we got a whole box from Home Depot right there. I'm going to open that up though. We had somebody asking in a recent video what this little guy was. I thought initially that they were talking about this one. This, for those wondering, is a tactile turn Maverick. My brain farted out. I have the G10 orange one. This one I bought later. It's kind of my everyday one. And then I have this fat carbon purple haze that is just gorgeous that I originally got. This one's seen a little bit more use because I've had it a little bit longer. Especially because one of my main pens is a thick bolt in orange G10. I thought, this would be really nice. But that's not actually the one that the viewer was talking about. They wanted to know what this was. And those of you that have seen me use it before, it is a tactical keychains Tuck HD. The HDs have the hook there. This is specifically an HD Smooth because it only has the logo. There's no bumps on the sides as well. And the back is completely smooth. You're like, how do we know this is any different? Or what's the difference? Here is a standard Tuck. This is a XL. This is actually a titanium. They did a very limited one of these. Still smooth though here. But it has the... no, this isn't even smooth. This is just a Tuck XL. The back has this design on it. It's got the side. Then there's a Tuck XL honeycomb that's got more like a honeycomb pattern instead of the circles. But that's what these are. Highly recommend them. I have I don't know. Been running one since probably, I think, 2015, give or take. Maybe that's too early. It might be 2018 when that came out. Either way, within them coming out, within them launching as a product, here, since I normally at home rock a copper one, I got an HD smooth. I've tended to prefer, as they offer make them available, as the smoother, and no bumps on the side, no extra, just smooth in the hands. And that seems to be more the clean variant is the way they're going. At one point, I got a custom one done before it was bought by their current owners that is actually like Geek Squad themed, and I got Square's the opposite. Mine's black on top, his is orange on top, black on the back. I have a gold button. He has a silver one. I got black screws. He's got silver screws. He's got a gold clip. Just kind of like opposites. Used that one while I was working there. And then they do have some with inlays as well, like this, which is oddly, I didn't think I'd rock this, but it is actually really nice. This they call the ES for Elite series. If you guys have watched some of the ones where we unboxing Pokemon cards and stuff like that, this is probably the one I was using during that. My daily is a yellow, like this guy, except the big one. And then I have one of these in my keys. This is a junior. Use an X-Acto blade. So, for those that were interested in that, yeah, check them out. Highly recommend. You do not need, and by the way, that was like maybe half of the ones I have. Realistically, I use this orange one here, and then I use the yellow one to go. And then traditionally, my original was a copper. Then I have a copper and a carbon fiber if you go way back in the videos, and I have the full copper again. Those are kind of the ones I keep. Like the weight isn't great. Also, the copper generally not as hard as, say, aluminum or titanium or like that sort of. The weight is a big thing, especially if you're doing a lot of stuff. But my recommendation, though, this one's a this is also a matte Cerakote or a satin, I forget which. Really liked how this came out. Well, if you watch the saga on how long it took me to get this specific finish, though, my recommendation, if they make more, is an anodized one. I saw with my quote-unquote Geek Squad themed one. Just because, like, the slide here, the Cerakote actually causes a buildup, right? And actually makes the tolerances, takes up some of the tolerance. So it doesn't necessarily slide as easy. The clearance basically for the blade is less, and you'll actually like rub up some off. It doesn't really, maybe on the corner there's some shiny there. Same thing happens with Cerakote on guns. But the anodizing does the opposite. It actually is harder than the aluminum. So it makes a nice surface for stuff to slide on. Also, with anodizing, it often removes material due to the acid bath required for part of the process. So the tolerances actually the clearances, the initial tolerance plus anodizing makes the clearances, how do you want to say, like a bit more, like bigger. They tend to slide in and out easier without any break-in, etc. Now, if you really think one's really cool, pick the one that thinks really cool. They all work great. For functionality's sake, though, my recommendation would be an anodized aluminum one. The aluminum ones are multiple times cheaper than the titanium and other more premium ones. And if you get an anodized one, you can kind of get, I have a tiger stripe one or something like that, So in here, we've got way more Knipex. And yes, that's how you actually say it. Often you'll hear me saying Knipex just because, but it is Knipex. We have some that are in retail, like hang shelf retail store packaging. Then we have the rest of these are in what would be like dealer packaging, like you'd see from like a like a Snap-on dealer or something like that. This whole box here, which we'll take a look at, I say second, let's do it first actually, is from Home Depot. The other ones that you saw were from Amazon. So both of those places, it was nice to see that Home Depot. I have not seen Knipex in store at Home Depot, which would be really nice. It is at Menards. That's where I got my initial like 3-pack of these effectively. Once I'd killed I had like a Crescent set. They stopped making that set even though I really liked it because DeWalt bought Crescent. Now, oddly, it was blue and Crescent Colors wasn't blue. I don't know. But I used those for, I don't know, for over a decade, and I started getting sloppy in the hinges and stuff like that. It was time for new ones, but I didn't know. Like, I knew about Knipex, and I had so many offerings, I didn't know what to get. So I just kind of, Menards had just the very basic, you know, like your linesman pliers, your wire cutter, your needle nose, just some very basic things, and those aren't even the things they're known for, really. Just take a look what we got in here. So, first off, we've got ourselves a 0302 160. Be aware, we will have some more of these coming in. I was hoping they would be in time for this video. If you go back, you can see a full video of all of the new, when I say Knipex, also, I'm picking these up because of the new Knipex Stend handles that are 3-part. We'll kind of go over that when they take, you know, you can make any tool tethered. I'm making all of mine tethered. You can add colors. So if you're like me, I'm adding yellow because that's the color of my tools that I use to brand my stuff. Or if you were, say, making a process for something and you wanted each step to be like, grab the red pliers and the blue pliers and the purple pliers and the pink pliers, you know, you can do that with the colors. If you're trying to like you know, create a kit for one thing and really, you know, if it's gonna be like some super repetitive task or something like that, kind of like you would have on a manual. So this is a 0302 160, 6 1/4 inch, 160 millimeter. That's what the 160 stands for. Combination pliers and multi-component. Multi-component is just the handle. So this was supposed to be in a plastic bag in here, right? And it's in there, but it's not in there. Some of them come in the bag. Some of them come with the bags in the board, in the cardboard. You know, the board I called it. Some of them come with no plastic in there and like a card. So it all depends on. This guy feels super handy. I have a slightly bigger one of these with. This is just the natural. I don't know what they want to call this finish here, where you just have the bare metal sort of here, and then like a black finish on the edges. I don't know what they call that, but I have like a silver one of this, but the handle, it's like a 200 millimeter, I think, or maybe a 180. I can go and grab it. I should probably grab my standard ones as well, so you guys can have an idea of what I'm sort of used to talking about here. Alright, I'm coming back. So, what I was saying is this guy was similar to this guy. But if you look, this one on the right, this is the one I got from, I think it was the UK. It's nickel plated, or maybe not nickel plated, but like it's chrome, right? Apparently, a bunch of the chrome specific models, like these models, will show up in the US, but they will not be chrome plated, whereas overseas they will be. And I don't know why that is a thing. I heard that from, yeah, like one of the I don't know if it was a tool. I don't think it was a vendor. I think it was a guy buying Knipex from a tool truck. He's like, that's why when I think it was Matco was selling them, that was chrome plated, and he's like, oh, that's really uncommon to see chrome plated Knipex in the US. But this is the one I was talking about, where this guy is slightly longer than this one, obviously, because this is an this is a 0305 180, and this is an 0302 160. You can also see by how this is done, that is a like a completely different hinge, but a different hinge than this is. You know, much smoother back, embossed thing there. This is just laser etched on, smooth back. And like I said, another big thing that is kind of different, and you'll see this because this is a UK one. I have one on my last big video. I talked about it, where I had one from the UK and one from Australia. There were supposed to be like way more this time because the releases that they're doing this time are much bigger. But I grabbed this guy to show you guys. This is a 0305 180. In my hand, this, for stuff I do, the way that sits, and this is where, for those of you that have access to like tool trucks or shops, maybe you don't live in the US, or you're in bigger cities in the US, where you have more specialty shops, if you can get your hands on them, because like in this, I'm guessing, I don't know what the 03 means. That might mean the line of combination pliers, because remember this was a combination plier. That might mean combination plier, which is very similar to a linesman, but their linesmen are much beefier pliers there. So I think that's what the 03 means. I don't know. I haven't read through their catalog to look at the numbers. Maybe I should. 05 versus 02, I think that's style, right? And then there is the length of the grip. What I can say is, if you look, this is a more svelte grip, like a thinner one. Now, often I might prefer that in like a wire cutter for stuff, right? But for this style of combination pliers, the other thing I can show you with this style too is this opening right here is much more narrow than that opening. Do you see that? Kind of hard to tell, but the smaller pliers has a much more narrow opening there. But in my hand, this, like, I don't know if you see how well that sits in my hand, and like this sort of thing. So I'm probably grabbing this one more than this one. But this is the sort of thing that until you get your hands on them, I feel like you won't know. That's why I'm basically trying to get my hands on. Oh, here's another big thing. You can see that the grip on this one is much smaller too, like where you get your thumb in, and it really locks in, and maybe that, like, this fills the hand more. Now this style of more bowed thing, I wouldn't want in like a wire cutter. I think I have one that's sort of like that. You know, and in general, I don't prefer that style. For example, here are the three that I bought out of the gate. You probably saw them in the previous video. I already had this one because I've been looking for a long, skinny needle nose for some time. This one you can actually see, there's one or two teeth on here that are not in not as in good a shape as some of the other ones. I could probably send it in for that, to be truthful, but it's not far enough gone by any means. I love the short handle down here and the long head. You know, like you can kind of manipulate it. This is a 2611 200. This one's at Menards. In this, the only other ones they really sell, like pins, they can get other ones, but the main other ones they sell in stock are this guy, which is a combination pliers like this, a little bit beefier this way if you look. So we're getting closer to linesman plier style, so it's considerably more beefy than this chrome plated one, if you can see there, and very much more so than that guy. So some really thick handles, even though they're not comfort grip, they're just metal. That is chunk. This is probably the one I've used the least. Also, something that there have been complaints on, I'm gonna see if I can zoom into 5 here. That is purposefully gapped, for those wondering, because and if you notice, it's like that on this one. It's a much smaller gap, purposely gapped on the front there. So is it, this one also is almost lined up, almost closed. The reason why I have that, though, is because when you're gripping something, you're never going to need that closed, because there's always going to be some amount of material in between there, right? Even though it's only like one piece of plastic, right? It's still gonna be, that's still a larger gap than right there. So I read some complaints online that, like, I've never bought a high-end pliers like this that's not like lined up here. And if you look at it, is closed all the way, because if you look at the cutter, it is very much all the way closed. There is no light passing through that. So that is intentional. That is because they want you to be able to bear down on this and actually grip something. Whereas if you have something thicker in there, or thinner, you're not going to be able to get it all the way closed. So yes, that's not supposed to be touching. It's also probably easier to manufacture then too, to be truthful. But the cutters in here, this is meant for, like they say, you have piano wire, 2.2 millimeters. So the piano wire is, correct me if I'm wrong, but steel wire. You know, whereas a lot of their wire cutters, even this one is rated for even thicker wire. I've used this thing a whole bunch. You can probably tell. Yeah, probably doing some stuff that I probably shouldn't with it, but I might be able to send that one, because I can actually see some light through on the bottom when I hold it up. That's one way to tell when you buy a new one, is you might be able to see here. That's what I was doing before. You see there's like a little gap between there, but hold it up to the light. Here's my stream light. You can see there's a little bit coming through, especially on the back here. And if you look at the thing, I've cut on some things that maybe I should have used a bigger pair. This is only the 200 millimeter, that's the 8-inch. They'll make a 250, that's the 10. You know, and Knipex is quite good with their warranty. Maybe once this specific one is replaced, I will, you know, with a Knip Extend one, I'll send it out for a warranty. Because if the teeth are not, or if the thing up here is not lining up, it can't cut all the way through material. That is a thing that happens with cheaper ones. Something I can say, though, is that it wasn't like that when new. You know, you can see some abnormal normal choppiness on the thing there. So but this guy I probably used the most. I had it before these other two, and this actually I like how this hooks out here like this. I may have this one in Knip Extend already, the 7401 200. I have to look. If so, like I said, I gotta get this sent out. I do like this one. I have seen, though, a lot of electricians will say, like, if you're trying to cut all 3 wires on a Romex at once, the 10-inch makes that a heck of a lot easier. So that, you know, once that comes to Knip Extend, I'll probably be picking that up. Until then, I kind of just you know, I think I might have bent this guy a little bit too, looking at it, because you can see light through the cutters. Really, we cannot have nice things. Paisley, she jumped up here and just knocked everything off the table. But Yeah, these guys, like I said, the size of this feels super handy. So if you ever need like a small this combination plier that's used for all different sorts of things, But this size here feels super handy. Normally, I don't like this more bowed out. Like I prefer these flatter. That's for cutting things. Whereas once we get into like the needle nose, if you see it bows out even more there. But this is more of a lighter touch device. And I have used and misused this quite a bit. I can already tell. You can definitely see light through this whole, like even the cutter. You guys can see that there. But that is all the way close here. I'm even putting pressure on it. You can see through the whole thing. And I'm sure I either bent the tips. Actually, I can tell right there. I took a chunk out of the tip, doing something I probably wasn't supposed to. I mean, you do use tools that way. That's why you get lifetime warranty. I think I finally have. You might have seen it earlier. I might have a very similar replacement to this that I can actually send her out and not have it, because I use this one all the time. You can see like chunks out of the dipped handle. This thing's decently beat up. You've seen worse tools, I'm sure, but that is one downside when you get the grippy bits on the needle nose this long, is they do get a little bit weaker. Maybe grab something a bit more stumpy, depending on what kind of stuff you're doing. But I haven't picked up all those different pliers because when I replaced my Crescents, I had this one for doing PC stuff already. I picked up the 0201-200 combination pliers. Kind of was using it close to a linesman. It feels fine. Like this is the one that I was most like meh about. This guy's got a ton of use. 7401-200, doing all sorts of wire cutter tasks, Romex, just general, things you use a wire cutter for. And I might have gone a little bit over its capacity at some point, but they've served me fine. I knew when buying. Well, I already had owned this one, but I knew when I picked up these two. You could have got them in a kit. I already had one of them. I wasn't buying a whole kit because they weren't cheap. I want to say they were like $50 a pop or somewhere around there from Menards. Nowadays, you can get those through Amazon. Like those specific models, probably a bunch cheaper because they're less specialized of a product. Ow. Because even something like not like this guy. This is my previous one. But this one is like $30 or something. For those references though, I was wondering. Here is a this is a Knipex on the left here with the 3-component grip, the grippy rubber that you put your thumb and your forefinger on, and this is the old Comfort grip. I dislike the old Comfort grip. This is like hard plastic the whole way around, and it's rounded. If you look at this, it's fairly round grip, and a lot of Comfort grips make this like basically they just take this and they bulk it out, right? I take this and they bulk it out. This is much more comfortable to me than this, because there is no like flat surface here, because it's much more bowed up for you to bear down on, right? This kind of feels like kids plastic toy. I was gonna say Tonka, that's not right. Play school pliers. That's what this kind of feels like. Whereas this feels like you got an exact thing. Now I have even from a leverage or like a hand strength / hand comfort perspective, like even around here, if you look, this is like much more rounded. Like I actually slip off of this more than I do just the dip, right? So previously I always went dipped. A lot, if you look at a lot of my tools that I've shown off here, most of them are dipped. I generally prefer just a dipped tool, because a lot of times the comfort one or the ESD one, like, it makes the feedback from the tool mushy and stuff like that. This was awful. This one I actually got for free. I didn't buy it. I ordered a nip extend one, and they sent me the non-nip extend one, and I was like, hey, and it was actually either the one of the ones off Amazon. It might have even been the Amazon UK one that got sent over here. And I just keep it. I'm like, okay. So this is probably going to go with. Eventually, these ones that you saw over here, my older ones, are going to possibly go warrantied and then get put out in the garage as just kind of in my pack out, as rather than in the big toolbox. This will go with them. This one's very, ugh. For example, if you look at, let's zoom on in here, 2x. If you look at this, that is much flatter. So what they're actually doing here is they've actually broadened your, so they've like squished the comfort grip down to where it's flat on the inside here, completely flat, right? And then it gets wider, and you actually have more meat to put the palm of your hand on. And especially with like gloves, these are even more comfortable. But then up here, you still have this really grippy, like, even this feels like a harder plastic than this ever was, right? Like, than this was. And then this blue feels much harder than this does, but it's not squishy. It's just grippy, right? But then this gray up here is actually like, it's actually like bowed in, and is like truly grippy. Like, when I picked one of the nip extend, like, I already was kind of using it as an excuse to finally, like, I'm picking up these, and I'm going to be, you know, because I wanted to switch to Knipex, and I only had the 3 you saw, and I really didn't take the time to figure out the models. Well, with nip extend, especially because, like, what they were showing, and like, you can make them all tethered, you can have the coloring, and there are other accessories from third-party tools and stuff like that. You just pop it out and you can use them. I was like, yep, and this finally, I held one of these, and I'm like, this finally feels better than this, in my opinion. Whereas this felt like I was using like, do you see how even the stops for your fingers are not defined? Whereas here, that is like a, like, they just took everything and made it more defined, if that makes sense. If you look, they took the seam and they put it at the top too, because they want the flatter surface up here, whereas the seam's down here on this one. And now this style hand grip is somewhere between, because this is a one, these are 180s, so these should be the same hand grip, right? And you can tell the same, very similar hand grip, and you can see they made it longer over here. Because I was going to say that, because, you know, like, this was the longer one, like, this is the better comparison, but it's not, because if you look at the whole handle is shorter and smaller on the 160 size. So it's just the old comfort grip from Knipex I didn't like, and most comfort grips I do not like. I'd rather just take a dipped, or like Klein has their like double dip style. Those are fine too. Those can be actually more comfortable, and you still feel really in tune with the tool. But the nip extend, like I said, I try, if you can get your hands on one of these, try it out, because I do think this is the first comfort grip that for me has actually felt better than, and yes, my hands are getting older and stuff like that, but I actually feel like, because you can get the thing wider, and they can get more shapes, that I shouldn't say more shapes, but like better formed shape, because they're not worried about, like, this has to be the metal bent into something, right? Whereas this, they can do a little bit more with the like, this is a I believe this is a glass reinforced, when I mean glass reinforced, I mean like fiberglass reinforced polymer on here. I'd have to like look it up, like very similar to like a drill, you know, like that sort of a, and this is all molded as one things with different like multi-step injection mold. I'm pretty sure they probably do the red, then the blue, then the gray. Just based on how it's done and where the... They might do them all at once too. I mean, there's probably gonna have to be some difference in time, but yeah, you can see a little bit of mold mark in the gray there, and the gray there. Blues on the very tips, right there, and then a red is... There's the seam all the way around, but that shouldn't be the injection part. Maybe they don't need it because it's the base mold, or it's literally in the ends I have in. Like where the... That wouldn't make sense though, because then that wouldn't come up cleanly. You can see a specific mold line that goes around there. Yeah, so it's definitely a multi-part injection, you know, based on what those points are. But yeah, I actually super like this guy. This, you can, for those, maybe you can't tell in the camera, but this in my hand just feels like super... There's certain tools you pick up and you're like, I like that one. Now this is obviously even skinnier than the 180 variant, right? Even smaller, even lighter duty. But for if you need something smaller, or like where this is enough, I would grab this over this guy. Okay, that was like the first tool. I swear we're gonna go faster. Going on from here. So let's take a little sneaky peek here. This one is a 0302 200. Didn't we just talk about the 0302 200? I thought we did. 0305 180, 0302 160. This is also a 8 combination pliers, but it's an 8-inch. So this is an 0201 200. Maybe I should look up what all these numbers actually mean. Oh, and this one is actually in its bag. See what I mean? Like it's... And this is wrong. And it's gritty as. All right, and it does say multi-component on it. So I think somebody swapped them. Well, that is a damn shame. You can tell that this is this style. And this has happened before because these soft grips are still in like being sold, right? They're still being sold when the new nip extend grips are. It's the same part number. They're basically replacing comfort grip with nip extend grip. But I'm waiting for them to show up as comfort grip or as nip extend grips on the pictures on the website. And in this case, this should have been listed as or this was listed as a nip extend. So I'm gonna have to reach out to Home Depot and get that figured out. Always something around here. Always something. Alright, so here we have a 9762 145A. It's another ferrule crimping pliers. I don't know that this one couldn't be a nip extend. Yeah. So this one has a little card too for the nip extend accessories. This one is also in plastic. So this is a smaller crimper than the one that I previously featured on here. And this one is only a one-sided crimp, whereas the other one went boo, 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 all the way up. Much smaller wire ferrule crimper. And for those that don't know what wire ferrules are, they're basically on the end of a wire. A lot of you twist the ends to put it in stuff. You technically, depending on what you're doing, shouldn't be doing that. Like, that's the less correct way. You're actually probably breaking some of the wires on the end of there if you stripped it properly. So what you actually do is strip it off, put on a ferrule, and then crimp it down, and then you put the crimped ferrule into the thing you're going to, say, put the set screw into or clamp onto it somehow. And this is for 0.25 millimeter to 2.5 millimeter, which is American wire gauge 23 to 13. So just picked this one up to add on there since I had the other one. It's interesting that two of the same things can be so different, you know, because there's what this end looks like there. That is a 9762 145A. I would say if you're unless you're looking for that specific thing to do that specific task, probably don't pick it up. But this is even smaller handle than this 160. And they're doing a really good job of varying this grip as it gets smaller and changing the dimensions and stuff to still really fit your hand well, even though you're going shorter on the grip. If that makes sense. Because a lot of other pliers will just scale it down and it won't fit in your hand well. This is a 95 12 200, 200 meaning 8-inch, 95. This is cable shears, comfort handles. We have had some other cable shears before, I think, smaller ones. We have the step cut is what we had previously. This is just a more standard cable shears. So we've got this. I believe they kind of do it similar to the step cut. This is for if it's like a really big cable. You will do the front for the outer jacket, right? Because it can go wider. And then the inner part back here for the actual cable itself, right? For some of these, if you pick them up before you use them, you may want to review the product page for this model from Knipex, because it is going to help when in use. They do have intended uses for them. Something like the cable shears too, if you can see, this has a very svelte, very straight. They get very close to each other to do that. And what that is that's because you're going to have it, at least this wide, if not that wide on the handle. And initially you're going to start out here, go to there, and because if it started out wider, it would get even wider when you opened it up. So this is a smaller, I believe the step cut is like a 225 roughly. So it is smaller. To be truthful, with the step cut being a better design, I'd probably grab that over this unless there was something that this was particularly better at. Yeah. But, you know, nice one to add to the collection. Definitely a different style. And as much as, you know, you may or may not like reading manuals for these, especially if you're the more specialized tools from them that isn't just like a combination pliers or a wire cutter or something like that. You know, their cable shears, depending on which one you get, do have different ways to be used, and then that'll kind of prove. This is where if you have a tool vendor, then, and I don't use like any one of these. Do I use every day? Like if any, it'd be like the needle nose. I'm not fancy. Like hopefully your vendor that you would buy these from would have an idea, or other coworkers that you have been like, oh, I've got this one. It is amazing for doing ABC, XYZ. I know some of you in the comments commented about going from the step cut to the step cut XL, the one I showed in the previous roundup. For doing battery cables. That was way, like the original step cut could do them, but it was a bit of a struggle, and then that one looked way better. Yep, I've heard that. A lot of I want to say like junkyard techs really love that step cut XL from the videos that I've watched, because they don't necessarily have to take things apart carefully, if you want to say that. Let's see what else we got. This is the last one from Home Depot. and I'm gonna have to reach out to them about the Womp Womp 0302 200 because that is supposed to be a Knipex stand. This is an 02 0202 225 high leverage combination pliers. So we got another combination pliers. That's this guy, that style, like kind of like a linesman basically, except less beefy. That, and I can see that's a nip extend. I think this is a newer model as well. Now look at that beefcake there. That guy's got some chompers. And if you look though, there's a review on this one on, oh, I've never had a pair of pliers that's open like that. It's supposed to be like that. And then, because even if you're grabbing this piece of cardboard, look at that, it grabs it. Never are you going to need the, you actually don't want those with nothing in them to be touching, because that means even with the slightest thing in it, you're not going to be able to bear down all the way. Now for me, that 200 one, to be truthful, if that was in the proper nip extend configuration, right? This is as this one is. This 225 is getting big for my hand. Maybe gloved it wouldn't be too big, but like this is a beefy tool here. At least the grip of this one, like, because I can tell you want, for those, I don't know if you can see this, but it comes up, goes down here. So that's where you want like this part of your hand and this gripping, right? If you notice, even my hand is probably like pinky short, like we should be out to here, but then my thumb does get there, but then this is not up here. So maybe that's you know, you're getting more leverage with it. That's it, because it is considerably wider. This is a 0201 200, right? So we're looking at about the same head size as the 0221 200, but definitely a much beefier hinge, a much bigger head, because if you look this way, this is a much bigger head on there, right? Same style though. If you look where I mean, not same style, because this Knipex logo goes off to the side there. But you have a much longer handle on there, so you get much more leverage. I'm kind of thinking that the one that didn't come in correctly is kind of going to be my, I mean, I like this 160, and I think that 200 is kind of where I'm at. This 180 is like bigger, but not in a useful way, for me at least, and this 225, maybe if I worked with gloves on, it would kind of fill out, because gloves just make your hand bigger, you know, in general, but also could depend on what you're doing. You may need either this style, like as in this, because it's a thinner grip again, but that leverage, you may need that leverage. So let me know in regards to that, like which one of these, you know, including the one that came in wrong, would you pick up combination pliers wise? You know, we got a couple different sizes here. I still don't think they've done their actual like linesman style, like electrician style, because that is a much more squared up here, and it's got a much more defined cutter on it, I would say, from what I recall. At least I might be thinking of specifically their 10-inch, which we still haven't hit with this. You know, we got a little bit of rust, it looks like, on the back. That's grease, actually. Sorry, not rust, grease. So this is everything that I got from Home Depot. There should be one more here, but as you guys saw, the wrong pliers came in. This batch seemed to be very combination plier heavy. Previously, unless you ordered it from the UK, where you got this guy, there were no combination pliers. So first up from Amazon US, we're going to go with what I believe to be the replacement of this one, or at least very, very similar. And this has the actual like hang packaging. And it is the 2612 200. This is a 2611 200. So I don't necessarily know what the difference is there. It looks like this one might be slightly longer this guy, in the tip area. Oh, this is also why they don't generally use this packaging unless they really want to show it off, is you just gank it out. But this feels very similar to, yep, and you can see that is supposed to be no light. There's supposed to be a gap here because you're always going to be grabbing stuff with this, but the cutter, no gap. Like I said on this guy, it might have got a bit tweaked. I think I was using it for clips on like brakes. There's like springs on rear brakes for like I think it was ratcheting system or parking brake or something. And let's just say should have probably used a beefier needle nose had I had a beefier needle nose. Turns out I did. I not a Knipex one, but I had my DeWalt one. I didn't think about that at the time. But this one's very similar to this guy here. If we line those up, that's going to be right there. Like that is basically the same pliers. I'm not sure what delineates between the 2611 and the 2612. If you guys know down below, hit me up. Let me know what the, break down these numbers for me. But I was really needing a new needle nose here, and now that I've got one, this one will go out for repair because yeah, Frank, this wire cutter in here never been used. Never needed. I just yeah, this guy. I don't know. I don't do a lot of tasks where it's like I need the same tool that is subpar at doing another tool's job to do that job. I will just grab that tool. I don't know about many of you. For, I should say, linesman pliers for like running electrical boxes and stuff, that I can see it because you want it to just chomp it off and then bend it for the outlet boxes. So I can see for that. Because I've done some of that. But like, how many of you use the wire cutters on needle nose? I do know some people do use the needle nose for doing like the hooks on the wire for outlet sockets and switches and stuff like that, rather than using the linesman or maybe you use a combination, not a linesman. Let me know. But yeah, I'm pumped because I really like this Knipex. I used it a whole bunch. It has seen its fair share of stuff, and may have gotten a little tweaked at some point or another. And now we have the Comfort Grip one, and I will say, it didn't lose any of its nimbleness really, but it gave you a lot more here on this backside for actually gripping things. It maybe lost a little bit of nimble. Because this has this very tapered handle here towards the back. You can kind of do, like often I would do this with it, like for fishing things through things and stuff like that, because it's a very long, skinny nose on there. But if you're not doing that whole thing from the back, but you're using it more like with your hand, this is definitely, and that might be where the 11 versus the 12 is the shape of the handle. Like I said, I'm not sure, but happy to have this one on the collection as I use. You can see the other one. Like I said, I used it a ton. So next up we have, okay, we got another long nose pliers. This one you guys are gonna have to help me with because I don't know what this is actually, like what this is intended for besides what it says, but 29, 25, 160, so smaller than this guy. 6 1/4 inch. Slim long nose telephone pliers. So you want to tell me what makes this? See, this is one that didn't come in plastic. I don't know what makes it decide it's going to be in plastic or not be in plastic, but so we went to even smaller, wider handles. Like this is like very, very wide in the grip here. Tightens up here, like where it's almost using, see, it's using a smaller handle than either. Even though this is a 160, it's using a smaller handle than the 160 combination, smaller handle than the 145 crimper. And man, oh man, and this does almost go, it is actually closed to the tip, and if you notice, it does not have a wire cutter here. The other thing is that the knurling, or the teeth on here, are much more shallow and less rough. Like, they're still there, but they're almost like cross-hatched in certain areas. I don't know if you guys can see that, but they're like cross-hatched in certain areas. Whereas the, you know, like this one that's like more of a steel on your nose is just this horizontal lines. So, and this is not something I've looked up because I haven't heard of telephone pliers. It was like, I knew there was a thing for doing like it's like brake lines or what do you want to call those, hydraulic hoses and stuff. It would have made sense if I knew what the nut was called. Those are called flare nuts. So there are things called flare nut wrenches. Those are the ones that have like about a third of them chopped out, so you can get it over the tube, then down and torqued. Yeah, I would have known what tool to ask for had I known, oh, dude, the flare nut wrench is used for flare nuts, and flare nuts are on brake lines. I'm a dum-dum. Yeah, I just didn't know. Didn't know necessarily what to call the thing I was working on to even know there was a tool for that. Once I was like, oh yeah, that's the exact tool I was looking for. I just, you know, sometimes, actually, I shouldn't say sometimes, a lot of times, you just need to know what to officially call the thing in order to find it. But yeah, what are telephone pliers used for? I'm guessing telephone stuff. Like, is this more intended for like networking style? You know, like a old school patch panel before we had keystones, style, you know, like that sort of thing. It's very, for a pliers of this side, it gets down to be very, very, very precise. You know, this one's also chrome plated, which would intend it's maybe meant for a little bit more precision. You know, and like I said, there's actually like a lighter knurling, or I don't know if you want to call it knurling necessarily, but like lighter teeth, but they're cross-hatched, versus, you know, something like on here where they're very heavy teeth on there, all in the pulling, like pull it this way, push it that way, or hold it from spinning sort of way. You know, unlike something like these Kleins, where they have diagonal teeth and then the opposite diagonal teeth there, so it's literally like crossed like that between the two sides. Yeah, it's not like super rough like these duckbill guys. So yeah, let me know. Telephone pliers. What is that for? Is it for, like, is it just called that because it was very useful for doing with its smaller size, you know, more polished feel, not as hard. It's got the teeth, but they're not like super rough. You know, is it for doing like phone systems? You know, like where you would have to do the panels, like they're like beep 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 beep, and they all connect into each other. I've had to undo those. That was before my time to put that sort of stuff in. If anything, what I was doing is taking that out and putting in IP phones. Or often I just see it in the server room or the maintenance room from a previous installation because, you know, we'll just use something else. Leave it there. You know, why take it out if it's working? So if that's what it's for, I could kind of see that because it's, you know, it's a little bit more precise, a little more precision, a little bit more refined of a tool. Definitely not as heavy duty. Definitely not doing brakes with these. Last tool we have for today is this guy here, which is the 14-22-160 6¼ inch diagonal cutting pliers with stripper. Which is, this one was out of stock on Home Depot's website, so I had to get it through Amazon. Otherwise, I would have bought it through Home Depot. And this is another tool that I was like, I don't generally use combination tools, but I wonder if this is a combination tool I would use. This feels oddly familiar in the hand. I'm gonna go see if I have real quick. So we need a 1422 160. I wonder if it's similar to, like, it's definitely not this guy. This is a 74 to 180. I wonder if I have a 74 to 140 or 160. Sorry. So this is the closest I've got right here. And this was one of the first Knipex stems. They actually had this as a limited edition in white as well. Before Knipex 10 was actually, I don't know if it was necessarily not announced yet or just hadn't come to market. So this is a 72 160. That's looking very, not the same though, because this has this distinct circular cut right there. That does not have that. This is a much thinner. See, this is wider down here and gets thinner to the tip. It's stumpier too. This is much pointier, and I do prefer the pointier wire cutters. And it makes sense why you need more point, because you're devoting some of your cutter to be strippers. So this is not the same as the 72 160, the 1422 160. And that's what I was kind of worried about, is like, are those going to be like the same tool just with holes in? And it does not look like they are. This is a different profile. It's not a flush cut, yeah, because they do have a flush cut. It feels lighter. Like, this has got some heft to it. This feels like a lighter tool, and there is less heft here, right? There's less material here, and then there's this cutout there for the labeling of the 1.5 millimeter and 2.5 millimeter. I don't know what AWGs those would be off the top of my head. These do not, neither of these say, this just said Vandium Super, that instead of Chrome Vandium for the material. I don't know if that's relevant at all. What they should have, like they do on some of these other ones, is you know, piano wire blah or copper wire blah. For whatever reason, that is not on the wire cutters for some reason, yeah. So it is kind of interesting that there are so many different like profiles of the head, and you know, like this handle kind of flares out at the back here, whereas this one does, but nowhere near the same. And you can actually see this with, I don't know if I'll be able to show you on camera. The profile of these is slightly skinnier than these. Or at least that's how it feels. And I already showed you there's that difference in the head there. You can kind of see that, where like these are, this guy's a little bit pointier, a little bit more skinnier, more svelte, but a little bit longer. Here you might be able to see there. It's just ever so slightly a skinnier grip on here. Yeah, this one's got more fat in here. You know, whereas this one kind of starts waiting to get fat back there. In my hand, these, also, like I said, I prefer a pointier, because often I'll have to use the tip to nip things. I will take a pointier wire cutter any day of the week. So between these two, even though I might not use the stripper, maybe I will. Let me know what the 1.5 and 2.5 millimeter, what that AWG comes up to. Is that like, it's not 12 and 14 gauge. Maybe it's 14 and 16 gauge. Is there a, like, what size is that common for? Like, why was that chosen for this pliers? If you guys have those answers, maybe I'll find out the answers for myself otherwise. But, I can tell you it's less beefy this way too. So on this guy, it's a little bit less chunk this way. So it is a lighter duty, but I mean, we're already talking like, this is a heavier duty wire cutter than either of those two, right? So we're talking relative terms here. I think when you're both talking in the same size, you pick which one you prefer. Like do you want the more snub nose or the pointy? I would say more than anything, it's about how it fits in your hand, because you got to like that. Or if you always have to wear gloves, make sure you're testing it with the gloves that you normally use on, because that really will affect which one you want. Also, that takes, depending on how padded your gloves are, can really take some of the stress, strain off your hand. Highly recommend, like, say when I was drilling all these holes fixing our mailbox, putting bolts through and stuff. Yeah, I realized halfway through I shouldn't be wearing gloves. Just putting that much pressure on your hand, repetitive task-wise, it just helps if you're not rubbing in weird places. So on the left here, just to review, combination pliers, 0202 225. Got a little scrape there from something. Even that says piano 1.5 millimeters. So this is where it's interesting that this is not rated. This is piano. Oh, that's a 2. It got scraped. So 2.5. This is only 2.2. So it's definitely beefier than this guy. Then we have our cable shears. Different to the little, I would say definitely lighter duty than the Step Cut XLs. Bigger head on them, smaller handle. Also thinner handles. So all depends on what you're using them for. 95 12 200. Do not cut steel, copper and aluminum. This one in hand feels more handy, but those Step Cut XLs definitely feel like they can really get through some stuff. Then we've got the 0302 160s. This is the ones that I really liked. Like, for a small combination plier, I feel like I'm gonna be nabbing this all, like, fairly regular, like all the time, just nabbing it. Because do all these little, like, grippy, clampy, pulley tasks. I just like how this fits my hand without a glove on it. Much nicer than, like I was showing you, than the 180 millimeter. This one's gonna be very task specific. This is the ferrule crimper 9762 145A. I don't know what the A stands for. You guys know? Let me know down below. This seems to be as close as they have out in the nip extend as those needle nose that are like 26 12 200. Highly recommend if you guys need a nice pointy long needle nose. Like, even my mom, for reference, who just does handy stuff around the house, or we try to fix everything that we can. I'll have to make it quick. The Pixel 9 Pro died again, battery wise. I didn't realize it was getting that close. And this iPhone, apparently I forgot to charge it. We only have 18%. So what I was saying is, even my mom using these, just doing as a normal, handy housewoman that is paramedic. She was like, that's a nice pair of needle nose, and it is. So it's got a lot of use. This seems to be the closest they have so far in the nip extend, the 26 12 200. Then we have the telephone pliers that I was talking about. That, hey, you guys, let me know why they're telephone pliers, and is it what I'm thinking for? So, like, for networking stuff, is that what it's designed for? Or telephone repair? That doesn't make too much sense. Let me know. Why is this profile called a telephone pliers? Or is that a Knipex specific thing that they call it telephone pliers? Or is that like an industry term? Then we have actually probably behind the the smaller 160 combinations and the 2 needle nose, which I was really lacking. This is probably my favorite wire cutter that they have on Nip Extend so far, and that is the 1422-160. I just really like the, that was it telling me we're down to 10% better now. I just really like this, really svelte, actually feels lighter weight than the other one I was showing off, pointier, longer, you know, small handy wire cutter. So super nice to see these. I need to get that other one that was wrong, the 0302-200. This should have been Nip Extend. We've had this problem in the past before because the old school comfort grip is still in the supply chain, and they try to, before doing the Nip Extend variants, is get the old version out, but that is why I always make sure the product page shows the Nip Extend variant. Not just that it says Nip Extend, but it actually picture, like somebody updated the picture on the product to show this 3-part grip. That is, in my opinion, much improvement over this older 2-part that feels like it's a kid's toy. So let me know your comments and questions down below. I know the last video was a decent hit for you guys. Hopefully that I can do the same with this one. Peace.